4 nurses or 5 nurses can come together and say, you know what, we want to open a GP surgery. And
I told somebody that this GP nurse thing looks attractive. I think I would consider it sometime in the future. And she was like, they don't know anything. They don't do much.
Okay. And that's one thing that anywhere you go, anywhere you work, you have to know your worth and negotiate for them to pay you what you are worth. But I had a colleague that only worked from 9 o'clock to 12 o'clock every day. There is such a huge demand for GP nurses because there's not a lot of them right now. You automatically would be on the same level as a band 6 nurse because the...
said it before.
Stop that. Hello guys. Today I have here somebody I so much admire. I've been wanting her to be on my channel for the longest, I think maybe over 2 years now, or like about 2 years now, but it's not happened. Maybe today is just the day. She's called Nurse Izzy. Guys, today are going to hear the sweetest accent ever. The sweetest accent ever. She's originally from Ivory Coast, but she trained in the UK as a nurse. She has so much experience. She has a YouTube channel. I'll leave it here so you can have a look. And she's also very active on Instagram. I'll leave the screenshot here. Should help you with your personal statements and all that. And she's a self-published author of the book My Mom the Nurse. Really, really beautiful idea, you know, from the perspective of her son, you know, she being a nurse. She's somebody you easily admire, and I personally admire her so much, and I'm happy to have her here. She has worked as a GP nurse before, so she's going to show us what it's all about. So for those of you who are not in the UK yet, let me explain what a GP is. So in every community, they have like, let me say, small clinics in every community. So when you get to the UK, you have to register with a GP, which stands for a general practitioner. So you register with a particular GP surgery, that's how they call the clinics. And then over there, obviously, there are nurses there that work with these doctors. So if you are sick or if you are ill, that's the first place you go to, unless it's an emergency, then you show up at the A&E. So when you go there, these doctors and these nurses, the GP nurses, you know, they'll take care of you. And if it's something that you need to go to, like a bigger health facility, then they refer you to the hospital. So she worked as a GP nurse for a while, so she has experience in it. And that's what we're going to ask her about today. Nurse Izzy, I'll let you briefly introduce yourself, okay? After you introduce yourself, tell me why. There was a time I told somebody that this GP nurse thing looks attractive. I think I would consider it sometime in the future. And she was like, they don't know anything. They don't do much.
Okay.
Yeah, and it was from an A&E NHS nurse. So I don't know. So introduce yourself and tell us why people have that perception about GP nurses. Okay, what exactly do you as a GP nurse?
Okay. So hi guys, I'm Izzy, and I'm currently working as a care manager for a care company. But yes, I did work as a GP nurse for about 1.5 years. And I think that perception of GP nurses don't know everything is definitely outdated, and it's not factual at all. And actually, GP nursing is a speciality, so it's automatically a band 6 role. So it's kind of like the pay and the specialism of being a general practice nurse is really high. And I think the reason is because you cover all ranges of care. So from children, mental health, learning disability, you kind of do it all really. So it's definitely an incorrect statement to say, oh, they don't know anything. Actually, they need to know a lot. And that's why it's very, very difficult to get into those roles. But I will let you get on with the interview and shoot me the questions when you have them.
You said currently you are a care
manager for a live-in care company. So a care manager deals with anything to do with recruiting carers, managing packages of care when they come in. So for example, if you have a patient that is in the hospital, they're a bit older, or they're not older, but they need extra support when they come back home, we then work with the local government or local agencies and companies to provide them with the carers that will take care of them in their own home. And I kind of oversee the carers and stuff, and I work with a register manager who then like guides me and tells me what to do, because this is all brand new to me too, you know. So
how long have you been doing that?
I've been doing it for about 4 months now.
Wow.
So yeah, it's very interesting. Yes. Yes. Thank you.
Maybe you come back and tell us about that again. Yes. That's if you get the time, because I know how busy you are.
Yes.
Wow. Wow. So take us through like a normal day when you go
Mhm.
as a GP nurse. What exactly do you do? I know you guys start around, is it what time do you start?
So with the starting time, it really depends on you, and that's why I love my role as a GP nurse. The reason why I left is because I moved locations. I moved from London to Southampton. Otherwise, I probably still would be a GP nurse today. And the starting time is flexible around working mothers, around people who maybe you don't like to wake up early. You can arrange your working times based on your lifestyle. So if you feel like, you know what, 12 o'clock is better for me because I take care of my mom in the mornings, they can arrange that for you, which isn't really possible within the hospitals or maybe a care home setting where you have to start at 7:30 or 7 o'clock. So the starting time again is really dependent on your GP practice and on your personal circumstance. Personally, when I worked there, I started at 9:30, so I had time to drop my son at school and then make my way to work. So yeah.
Wow. So when you start,
Mhm.
what do you do basically?
So when you start, you do various things. It depends on the clinic that you have. There's 3 or 4 main things that you probably will do within your clinics. The first thing is immunization, so childhood immunizations, injecting babies from the age of 4 weeks old up until they're 3, which is their last vaccination. And that will take a lot of time because imagine you're vaccinating babies in and out, in and out. And again, that's why I said it's very specialist because any mistake can affect that child. So you have to know what you're doing. You have to know the medications that you need to prepare. So beforehand, what we do is do various checks, like the fridge checks, because again, checking the fridge to make sure that it's the right temperature means that the medication is not going to go off. And if the medication goes off, then it's not of no use. So you check your fridge, you plan out your day. So when I come in, I check my rota or check my
Diary.
schedule to see, yeah, that's it, my diary to see what I've got during that day. So I could have 5 babies. The other things are sort of sexual health stuff. So if you work in a GP practice that does sexual health clinics, you'll be giving advice to women who need contraception, you'll be fitting contraception, or you'll simply just be giving them advice around taking the pill. But again, these are trainings that you have to do to be able to have those consultations. The other things are stuff like acute care, so asthma clinics, diabetes clinics. So running those kind of things where people with those conditions come in and you give them advice based on where they are. So for example, if you have someone who's diabetic and their blood sugar is just not going down, and you can see actually you're getting worse than you're getting better, you then as the nurse have to make a plan that you will then give to the patient and say, okay, this is what you need to do to lower your blood sugar. You need to improve your lifestyle. You need to improve your diet. You need to exercise more, and then check up on them regularly. The other things as well is COPD, which again goes hand in hand with asthma, and it's on the rise now because a lot more people are smoking, and also people are living longer. So a lot of older people are getting these conditions. COPD is basically a condition where your lungs are not as sharp as what they used to be. So you don't retain oxygen as well. I'm not an expert because I'm not a doctor, but from what I do know is that there's certain things that you need to do. Like there's a tube that they blow through that tells you what the capacity of their lung is. And then from there, you then give them whether it's inhalers or whether they need to speak to a doctor to see if they need to be on a certain medication to then improve their health. So it's basically managing people's health so that they don't end up going into hospitals and putting that pressure on the hospitals. So
That's
yeah,
a lot. I didn't know all that. I didn't know you
yeah,
run all those clinics.
yeah,
Like, that's wow, that's a lot.
yeah. And there's even more. It's just the time.
Wow. So
Yeah.
what time do you close?
Again, it depends on the clinic, what clinic you have. But if you work on a fixed rota, so for me, I worked 9:30 till 4:30, but I had a colleague that only worked from 9 o'clock to 12 o'clock every day. So again, it's very flexible depending on your GP practice. You know, everywhere is different. So you might find people who are very open and very flexible, but you might find other places where they're not so open and not so flexible. So it's up to you to, when you go for the interviews, negotiate your times. Because actually, how I got into it was through a program. So I met someone at an event and I told them, I really want to get into GP practice, you know, like, I don't know how to do it. I've gone into the hospitals like I've been advised, but my heart is for being in a GP surgery. So that person actually passed on my details to a local GP surgery who then interviewed me and gave me the job. But the program was to do a year of training. So it was meant to be like a trainee program. But when I interviewed, I negotiated not only my pay, but my hours, which apparently I wasn't meant to do. But it goes to show that sometimes you're not meant to do things, but when you negotiate, because of how you are and who you are, people just give you opportunities, or they open certain doors that were not meant to be opened for you. So yeah.
So generally, how many nurses were in that particular practice that you were? Because when I go, I usually don't see more than 2 nurses at my GP practice. How many nurses were at your GP practice at the time you were working there?
Mm-hmm. So at the time I was working there was 3 of us. There was the advanced nurse practitioner, and she was our lead GP nurse. But being an advanced nurse practitioner is wonderful because you do the same things that the doctors can do. So I think she did a course for called prescribing and history taking. So she was able to diagnose, she was able to prescribe medication. So for example, like the inhalers or any insulin that needed to be prescribed, she then doesn't need to go to the doctors. She can just give it out herself, even though she's a GP nurse. This is a course that she can also do. And I believe that course, you can do it after either 3 years of qualifying or actually a year after qualifying. So it's something any nurse can do. So yeah, so there was 3 of us. There was her, me, and then a senior nurse. And the senior nurse, she also did the history taking course and the prescribing course, but she wasn't an advanced nurse practitioner. So I was really blessed to have 2 people around me that if I needed something and the doctors were unavailable, I could say, okay, this person needs this, and they could prescribe it for me.
Wow. For anybody else that wants to be a GP nurse,
Yeah,
are there some courses that they have to do? Not for those that want to be advanced nurse practitioners. I'm talking about
right.
the
GP nursing.
the GP nurse. Are there some courses that they need to do?
Yeah, so the courses that I would say to do, there isn't anything that is asked for people to do it. Again, even a newly qualified nurse can go straight into general practice. So it depends on the practice themselves. But there's a platform called e-learning for health. And that's the platform that I use to do training for my childhood immunization, diabetes awareness. They even have stuff like autism awareness, which is something that is now growing. So
E-learning, what is e-learning for health?
E-learning for health, yes.
Okay.
And you can register without an NHS email. It doesn't matter. You just have to have a location. So you have to work for a care company or care organization in order to register with them. But there's loads of free courses that you can do there, and they generate certificates that you can then provide to the workplaces and say, look, I don't have experience in GPN, but I've done childhood immunization courses, I've done smear courses, and I've done courses around what they may be looking for within that practice. Yeah.
Wow, it's really helpful. I'll check it out. You can
Good.
send me as well. What would you say are the main benefits of working as a GPN, aside the fact that it was flexible, the time you could drop your son off in school and then you had enough time, to spend with him after school as well?
Yeah.
By the time, flexibility, what else would you say?
I would say it was an amazing opportunity to learn. As an adult nurse, I wouldn't have been able to work with children, but here I've been able to work with all care ranges. So I could work with people from mental health backgrounds. I could work with children, learning disability, as I said before, but also it opens up certain doors that you wouldn't really have if you were working in acute settings. So if I was working in the hospital, I wouldn't have the opportunity to go and train and do prescribing courses paid for. It would be very difficult for a trust to do that for a nurse, especially a nurse that's maybe just joined. Whereas some
You're
GP
changing my
practices...
mind, Izzy. I never ever thought of GP nurse But as much as possible, I want to be able to make time for my son and my
Yeah.
future other kids. And I
Yes.
also want to be able to learn. I want to be, and then I like the fact that you had experience with different conditions.
Hmm.
So, it increases your knowledge.
Yes.
You understand?
Yes.
Yeah, because you
Yes.
dealt with several different conditions. And then,
Exactly.
yeah, and that's what I want. That's the kind of nurse I want to be. So
Yeah.
I always said that if I would go to the NHS trust, I still work in a care home, I would have
Yeah.
gone to A&E where
Mm.
I would still see like so many, because that's what I want. I want to be able to
Yeah.
learn loads of things in a short while.
In a short
I
while.
like the fact that I never thought that a GP nurse could give me that. Wow.
Yeah. And the amazing thing now with GP nurses is that you don't need to just be an adult nurse. They're now hiring mental health nurses, they're hiring learning disability nurses. So it doesn't matter what type of nursing you've done, because those are transferable skills. They will hire you and they will train you to do the job that they need you to do. And at this moment, I was doing some research. There is such a huge demand for GP nurses because there's not a lot of them right now. So this is the right time to think about going into GP nursing.
Wow. So, do GP nurses offer sponsorships for overseas nurses? Do you think if I need,
Mm-hmm.
really, they do?
Some GP practices have started doing that. Yeah, because the demand is so great that if you have, the main thing is primary care experience. If you have experience working within the community, you're at a higher chance of getting selected as opposed to working in the hospitals. The reason why they say this is because, when you work in a hospital, you have a certain mindset. You're very sharp in terms of moving and picking things up. I suppose in a care home, it might be similar as well. When things happen, you're unfazed and you move as the ward moves or as your setting moves. In GP nursing, sometimes it's the subtle things that you may not think, oh, this person is fine because their respiration rate is within range, but there may be something else is going on and you need to pick up on that. Whereas in the hospitals, the acute level that someone has to be in before you panic is a bit higher. So that's why they don't like people coming from the hospitals, because they feel like if you're coming from the hospital, you're not really going to be looking for the little things that people may not say, especially the older people. When older people are sick, they don't like to bother anyone. They'll say, oh no, I'm fine. Oh no, I'm okay. When they're not okay. So it's kind of having those skills to pick up on, this person says they're okay, but their leg is red. What's going on? And then questioning them. Oh, so how did you get the redness on your leg? And, giving them that opportunity to then explain to you what has happened. So it's kind of, those are the things that they look for, that investigative skill to be saying, no, something isn't quite right. Or, okay, my feeling is that something is going on and I don't know what it is, but I'm not going to let you go home until I figure it out.
Wow. What would you say are the challenges now that you've mentioned the benefit? What are the challenges?
I'll say the challenge is probably for someone who likes different things all the time, and I always compare it to the hospital because, it's, the hospitals are very unpredictable. Every day is a different day. Whereas with the GP nurse, you know what you're going to get. Even though it might be a different patient, you know what you're going to get. So in a sense, it might be a negative, but it's also a positive because you get that chance to build rapport, you build relationships with those people. You come, they know you. Some of them even bring you food. They bring you like gifts and stuff like that. So you get to know them, get to know their families. And imagine if you've been vaccinating a baby that just came in at 8 weeks old or 4 weeks old, and then you see them growing and becoming like a 2-year-old that's like bossy and talking, hello, Nurse Izzy. It's beautiful. It's so wonderful to see. So in as much as the repetitiveness of it can be a challenging thing for some people, I think it's really nice for others who like that kind of stability. So yeah.
What's the career progression like? If I'm in NHS, I'm hoping to move to band 6, band 7, band 8, blah, blah, blah. If I'm a GP nurse, what's the, progression?
Yeah. So with GP nursing, there's no bandings because, again, even though we see NHS clients, GPs are private companies. So they're not NHS owned. They have a partnership with the NHS, which is why they see NHS patients, but they're private companies. And so with that being said, the progression is all dependent on your trust and you. You automatically would be on the same level as a band 6 nurse because the speciality of the role makes it a band 6, but you can also progress into a band 7, band 8 role. The band 9 roles would be if you wanted to become part owner within a practice, which nurses can be. So 4 nurses or 5 nurses can come together and say, you know what, we want to open a GP surgery and become partners to open a GP surgery. The only thing is, I think that there does need to be a doctor in there. So it can't just be a nurse owned run GP surgery, but nurses can do so much nowadays. And I think the way I look at progression is not really to do with the bandings, but it's to do with what you want for your future. So if you want to be in a position financially where you can afford to be free, then you go for roles that pay a bit higher. And in the community, there isn't a banding, but you just look at the pay rate. So every GP surgery will have different pays. Obviously, the closer you are to London.
How much was the take home at the time you were doing 9 to, let's say, 4? How much was the take home in a month?
So I was working 24 hours, and I think I was taking home about 33,000 at the time. But again, I worked in London, so the pay rate in London is going to be considerably different to outside London, which is why, again, like I said, I had to negotiate my pay because I was coming from a nurse in charge role. So there was no way I was going to lose my nurse in charge pay and go into a kind of newly GPN trainee nurse. Do you see what I mean? So I had to really negotiate. And that's one thing that anywhere you go, anywhere you work, you have to know your worth and negotiate for them to pay you what you are worth. It doesn't matter if you're a newly qualified GPN nurse or you're new to A&E nursing, your skills are transferable.
So any final words for those that ask to become GP nurses? Any final words for them?
I'll say don't be put off by the rejections. You know, rejection is part of life. We all get rejected, whether it's in our personal life or professional life. So don't be put off by the rejections. Just keep pushing, keep applying, because there will be that perfect practice for you. And if you get somewhere that you feel like it's not working, don't stay quiet because, oh, now I have my GPN role, I'm going to stay quiet and suffer in silence. No, don't stay quiet. Go and speak to someone that you know can listen to you, and just be free. Enjoy the role. That's what I would say.
I've learned a lot.
Good.
After you've been in your role for a while, we'll invite you back so that you can share. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
Guys, you can head over to Nurse Izzy's Instagram. I'll leave a screenshot of it here. And then I'll leave a screenshot of her YouTube channel page as well. She helps with personal statements and other things. You can, connect with her on her Instagram. And like you see, she is very, very knowledgeable, and then she'll help you with all these things, right? And then I hope you enjoyed the accent as well. I did enjoy. Thank you so much, Izzy.
You're very welcome. Thank you. Bye.
She's originally from Nigeria, but she trained in the UK.
I'm from Ivory Coast.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh, sorry.